Join us on Now We Consume. Take in the knowledge, take in the laughs, indulge in the topics with us. The Now We Consume podcast will take you through the parts of your day you normally dread. Why suffer through the existential crisis of life alone when you can do it with us? And now we consume.
This is not meant to be a conspiracy episode or podcast, but we may cover some topics that dance that line like a toddler dances on their mother's last nerve. This podcast is rated I, for immature audiences only.
Congratulations to the class of 2025. Fast food restaurants and strip clubs everywhere are now hiring. Welcome back to the Now We Consume podcast. I'm your host, Gibbs. I'm your host, Pip. With me, as always, is my co-host, Gibbs.
I am Pip, and I'm scared. Oh my God! So much genitalia.
I swear I did not take the edibles.
I don't know about that. That seems like you really did.
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I was looking at the note I had
God.
for Gibbs, but yes, God, words take the place of the mouth tonight. Oh. But yes, welcome back to the Now We Consume podcast. I do want to give a shout out to the class of 2025. Congratulations. You've made it through one of the toughest parts of life, and as such, your trial subscription to life has expired. You will now begin the adult service package upgrade, and you do not have the option to opt out of it. If you do choose to opt out, please do not make a mess on the way out.
Yes. Yikes. Oh, man.
And
also, that's bold of you to assume they would do a strip club and not just do OnlyFans.
Right. I mean, strip club is the gateway to OnlyFans, is the way I look at it.
At least
fair enough,
keep it classy, at least.
Yes. As far as the class of 25 goes, my oldest son, Josh, he was in that class, so congratulations to him. And speaking of my son and messes, since we were talking about messes, he told me tonight that he thinks Two Girls, One Cup is a great movie. We don't need a DNA test for that child.
Whoa.
I am not going to dignify this discussion with a response because, yikes.
He's all mine. The best part is he's not even biologically mine, but he's all mine. Nature versus nurture, buddy. Or nurture versus nature. I don't know. I am so far off my game tonight.
Yeah,
apparently I'm Gibbs. So,
hey,
He is like the perfect pet project for a psychologist out there somewhere.
if you're interested, please apply within. However, if you do not recognize the other voice that you're hearing tonight, that is our friend Gibles. He had joined us previously in the Right to Death episode. Gibles, if the listeners have not had the time to partake of that episode, would you please give us a little bit of a background about yourself?
Another one of these. Okay. So I previously was in the U.S. Air Force for 6 years. I was a police officer in Washington, D.C. for nearly 13 years, of which I had over...
Saw some shit.
Yeah. I think I was close to 900 to 1,000 arrests, somewhere in that range during that time. So, yeah. Also like long walks on the beach and holding hands and staring off into the sunset.
Cuddling after being bottom on anal. Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
So, tonight's episode, we decided to bring Gibles in for because we thought he might have some possibly useful insight. Criminal justice and police and prison reform. This is something we have talked a little bit about throughout various parts of other episodes, and we wanted to give it the full episode that it deserves. Now, I did want to preface things and say that on this podcast, we have done some great things. We have solved the energy crisis, as we did in the POTUS, Hope Streams and Legacies, and I believe it was the There Is No Spoon episode. We solved the national debt via the Doge episode, There Is No Spoon. And we solved the education problem with the aptly named Fixing the Education System episode. But tonight, we're going to try to take this one on because this is a huge issue that plagues the country in all 50 states and whatever districts of Columbia and Columbiana, whatever, Canada, 51st state Canada that we have. There is no one right answer. There is no one right way to do this. But it's an issue that needs discussion and discussions that need to be had. So it would be great if this episode got in front of some eyes and ears that can make the conversation happen. But we'll see if that can ever happen. So this is a complex and sensitive topic, and we understand that. So if you do have any feedback, please feel free to chime in. We will be trying to cover some of the more key areas of police conduct and training, public support for or against the police in general, sentencing policies, judicial integrity, and prison reform. And I have a fun little head exercise for the prison stuff at the end.
Head exercise.
Yes.
Knowing you, I'm scared to ask.
Yes.
Wow.
If it is giving or receiving, this is not the podcast for that.
We are not putting anything in the flesh crevice, all right?
Prison pocket, thank you.
I don't like that one, Gibles. I haven't heard that before.
The flesh crevice.
Yes. Listening to an audiobook.
Is that where babies come from?
Yes, babies come from my flesh crevice. So, Gibbs, did you have anything to add in, or Gibles, did you have anything to add in before we dive into the meat and taters here?
I think I would say overall, I would have to agree with kind of the setup that we're giving this, where this is a highly complex topic, and this is something to where I know there's several segments of this where we will be addressing in other episodes that we'll kind of be touching upon. So there might be a couple little things that either we don't get to fully flesh out or discuss. Also consider, I did want to preface that, like, as a podcast or a show, we don't have any affiliations for any either pro or anti-police or corrections or anything like that. We don't have any sort of connections or anything monetarily. I'm only doing that as a disclaimer because if somebody comes at us saying, "Oh, you're pro or against," no, I'm sorry, no, we're just people talking.
Mm-hmm.
People trying to solve the world one weird podcast at a time.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yes. Alrighty, so we'll dive right in and discuss the rise of documented police abuse of power. This is something that, thanks to the internet and handheld devices of all types, has been getting documented and discussed more fervently than ever before, because now it can be shown every single day of the week and every week of the year. Citizens, thanks to body cams and bystander videos, dash cams and everything, can show whether police are engaging in proper stops, proper use of force, proper use of the Constitution, essentially.
Which is very good.
Right. Did you ever have any, what are they, reports or whatnot brought up on you for anything like that? Like you did stuff wrong?
Oh, I had quite a few times where, people would complain. It was sent to the Office of Police Complaints, where if a citizen felt that you did something wrong constitutionally, criminally, or anything like that, they were allowed to file a complaint with the city, and it would be basically they would take the time to look to see if you actually did these things. And from an officer standpoint, you were guilty until proven innocent. You weren't innocent until proven guilty. It was just automatically assumed that you did whatever it was, and now you have to prove that you didn't do it. My favorite was a gentleman. He filed a complaint stating that I basically stomped a mud hole in his butt, and it was when I was pulling him out of a police cruiser. I got sent to office with the attorney. She sat there and started going over the complaint, explaining, what it was about, who was making the complaint. Gave me a second to review some old notes, see what it was from that particular scene that would help me remember things. Well, for me, it wasn't too hard because it happened just within like a month or so. And the first thing I asked her, I was like, so he's complaining about me taking him out of a police cruiser right before I put him into a jail cell so he can be searched. Yes. Okay. Did you take the time to watch the video footage that we have cameras that go all the way around the carport, including no matter what angle it is, so you can see what the officer's doing with the citizen? So if the citizen does something criminal, the officer's protected, just like if the officer does something criminal, the officer's, the citizen's protected. And she looked at me like she was completely dumb. So I told her, I was like, all you have to do is watch the video. I got time. So she ended up getting the video footage of it, showed exactly what happened, and I was exonerated and sent on my way. And I just told her, hey, let the citizen know. Thanks for the overtime.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. The body cams and the recorded video don't just show when the police are in the wrong. They show when the citizens are in the wrong.
Oh,
even if they think they're in the right.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the citizens that like to do the cruddy stuff and like to commit crime and all that, they are not happy about the body cameras because they can't lie. They can't get around it. The amount of like when I was with DC, it's been since 2019 that I've left. The amount of complaints when we initiated the body cam program to when I was going out the door, like the police complaints went through the floor because of the fact that all the squeaky wheels couldn't file a complaint really anymore because there are bad cops and things happened where it shouldn't. And obviously real complaints really do get investigated and things are taken care of. But a large majority of them, it was the drug boys on the street corner getting pissed because an officer was doing their job and they knew if they filed a complaint, he would go away for a while or she would go away for a while. And
police
that stopped
doing their job.
I know.
How dare you?
Exactly. Exactly. So once the body cameras came out, I loved it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big misunderstandings that a lot of people have is they think that, police brutality and violence are way up and all these other problems. It's unfortunately part of human nature to where I think any law enforcement group throughout history up until the last 10 years or so has always been a bit heavy-handed because, quite frankly, in many smaller areas with no oversight, you can get away with whatever you want.
Exactly.
Whereas now, because of that accountability on all ends, it has gotten a lot better, significantly better on all sides in terms of all the data you can look at. And mind you, this also protects a lot of citizens because, boy, I couldn't imagine the amount of people that got away with shit back 20, 30, 50 years ago. You would never know.
Look at the story of Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of fuckery that was nothing but a couple of good old boys who were running that whole show.
That's all right. Prince George's.
Well, yeah, but also, didn't Ruby Ridge happen like a couple of days after some other incident? So there was like something else happened for that to cover up. Geez, I have to go back and research that. We still have to do our episode on the uselessness of 3-letter agencies.
Yes.
And the alphabet agencies that do nothing.
It's on the docket.
But
dude, we when I first joined DC Police, when I went to the 6th District, there was, the stories that were told of what Prince George's County would do out of Maryland because, where the 6th District was and where Maryland was, the high crime areas, officers from DC would find people stuck in bushes or laid out in alleyways and stuff where they would get caught up with the Prince George's County Police. And instead of them arresting the person or just dealing with it appropriately, they would give them the police officer tax, i.e. they'd beat the ever living snot out of them. And then they would dump them in DC like it was our problem. Luckily, I never found that, but it was talked about heavily when I first joined. So I was worried I was going to be walking down the street and just see some feet sticking out of a bush and some poor bastards knocked out. It's like, well,
jeez.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that does go with the lack of, I think, police, and this is still a problem to today, the lack of police accountability in terms of the higher-ups. One of the problems, at least, now I was never involved with law enforcement. I do know some other people besides yourself that were and or are involved. One of the things I've heard about is the people that are higher in the police departments are typically more politicians rather than officers.
Exactly.
You have the actual officers that are all the lower to mid-level guys, but the top-level people, unfortunately, they're politicians.
Yeah.
And so they're not really as concerned with the effective policing as much as how the data shows or how things appear to look.
Oh, yeah. It's the accountability part, even in our nation's capital. They're more concerned about, like you said, the numbers. They don't care about, what happened down on the street corner. Yeah, they're going to come on TV and blow smoke up everybody's butt and talk about how, oh, yes, we totally care. As soon as that camera's gone, it's back to the same old. Let's change, oh, you made a burglary report? Oh, we're going to knock that down to an unlawful entry. It's stupid shit like that. So yeah,
that's
body.
It seems like there's still a lot of people in the wrong places that are capable of exerting too much influence.
And from the last I heard from some guys that are still on, I will not name names, but they taken the body camera program in DC and they have absolutely warped it into something that's a little disgusting in a way. Whereas now, say you're on you're doing your 10-hour shift and there's part of the shift where, there's not a lot going on and there's only so many times you're going to walk the same blocks and for a fact during your shift, during these certain periods, nothing's happening. So you set up your police cruiser in a spot, high visibility. So if a citizen needs to talk to you or whatever, you could be sitting there waiting. And you got officials now who already were treating officers like they were children anyways, even though everyone's an adult. They'll sit there and watch to see what you're doing at that moment. And if they don't like what they see, they'll call you up on the radio and figure out why it is you're not doing what they think you should be doing. Yeah.
So they're micromanaging. Nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, they already micromanaged anyways, but they're taking it to the extreme now. And then not only the fact of that, but say you make an arrest. You as the officer are not allowed to review the video footage from your arrest. So if yeah, in DC, when you make an arrest as an officer or you make any kind of contact with citizens and so forth, and then you want to review the video footage so you can make an articulated report correct and factual, you can't do that. It's against MPDC policy to do so. And the Attorney General and the mayor of all people are trying to change that. But as of right now, they're having a lot of cases thrown out because the narrative will say one thing, and then the body camera shows something else. And because the two don't match up, they toss it out because it throws the officer's credibility into the can.
And technically, it could be the smallest thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is incorrect. Like, holding something in the left hand rather than the right hand. They could say, well, that story's inaccurate, so the whole report's inaccurate.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which is ridiculous.
Wow.
That should be up to discretion at that point. It's because I understand one thing if somebody did something completely wrong and then they could not retell anything what happened. They went to go to the, body camera footage to then maybe save their ass. Like, all right, come on, you should kind of be paying more attention to what you're doing. But to look for little details to be able to get out of something is kind of insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, just the fact that you can't even look at it at all as the officer who was just there, seriously, what if there was a key detail for, I'm doing an investigation and I didn't realize what I was looking at and then saw it and went, oh, right, that's what was going on. Yeah, of course, you still got to have the argument of, while you're there and you're looking at things, you got to have the reasonable suspicion to figure out whether you got probable cause and all that good jazz. And yeah. I get that part. You shouldn't be reviewing video footage to figure that part out. You should already know what that is. But like I said, it's just like the little things. Like, you walked in a room and Boo Boo is sitting on your left and Shanae is over on your right, things like that. If you don't get certain details right, they're going to be like calling into question your memory.
The whole thing's out. Yeah.
Wow. Especially if that's, integral to the narrative.
That, I'm honestly kind of lost for words just because I didn't know the cops couldn't review their own video.
In DC, they can't. Don't quote me for other places, but in DC, you can't.
Okay. Well, just that one fact. If that's a policy in any other stations or whatnot or precincts, not being able to review your own video can screw up your whole report, I would think, because if you're in a heated situation, you're not going to be able to recall details.
Right.
You would then need the video, I would think, to recall the details of, what led to this? I can't fucking remember because I was getting shot at or I was trying to dodge a knife attack. Something.
Yeah. I can see that.
If they're trying to get that changed, I would support that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those rare moments where I'm looking at, Mayor Bowser going, I actually agree with you on something. And that is rare.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the police union let that go through.
I'm shocked.
I know it's
not
up to them, but
that should have been something they should have been fighting for all along. Because when I first heard that they were going to start when they first came out the body camera footage program, the union actually was with everybody saying, okay, yeah, this is going to be a great program. Everybody agreed, including myself. And it started off great. And one of the things that the union was specifying is, they're not going to use it to watch you. They're not going to sit there and use this to burn you because of the fact that they want this for the contacts with the citizens. So we have evidence. But within a few months, almost a year, I'd say it was like less than 6 months, they were reviewing footage from officers out on the street, and they were burning officers for cussing, when they went active for, going to an assignment. Like, seriously? You're going to burn an officer because he said the word fuck. Okay. And it's just progressively gotten more authoritarian from there.
You mean to tell me an inner city police department was acting in an authoritarian manner?
I know.
No. Never.
And this is coming from a guy that I've arrested other cops. I don't give a shit. You break the law, you break the law. I don't care what you're wearing. So.
Good.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's important for accountability.
Yeah. I had a lieutenant once tell me I wasn't doing my job. I wrote his ass a ticket. So there you go. Nice. I'm doing my job.
Fuck around, find out.
Right. Awesome. He tells me I'm not doing my job and then proceeds to park illegally in an alleyway along with about 15 other people. I said, okay, well, everybody's getting a ticket, including you. I'm doing my job.
Nice.
And then he proceeded to get pissed because I wrote him a ticket.
Well, he broke the law.
Exactly.
I think that's one of the big things a lot of people, including myself, get really sick of. Are law enforcement officers obviously just not following the law or even in the spirit of the law. I knew someone growing up, and I can't name them for very obvious reasons, but I would see, mind you, this kid's dad was part of the local police department. He would straight up grab his undercover cruiser to go grocery shopping, do usual stuff, do whatever. And he would straight up throw his lights on. He would do 90, 95 down the fast lane.
Jesus.
Flick his lights on for a second, get people out of the way. One of the worst things I saw was he had his kids in the car, just no seatbelts on, doing about 85, 90 down the highway. Mind you, I was also in the car. Granted, I was the only freaking person buckled, so like, I get why people sometimes are like, what the fuck? Like why you guys should get to absolutely not obey the law whatsoever. And unfortunately, there are several officers around here that have been arrested and have all this stuff happen because they think they're above it. They just don't seem to care.
Yeah, just like any job, there's bad apples. People say it all the time, but it's true. And when I was patrolling and I saw it happen, I was coming after you. Because if I got to do it, you got to do it.
Yep. Which I guess that's a good segue into our next point. Enhancing police effectiveness, training and support. The critical need for more and better training. Things like de-escalation techniques, crisis intervention training for mental health and domestic disputes. The implicit bias and cultural sensitivity training.
Oh, that's just all just garbage there. Sorry.
I kind of thought so, but
yeah, it's a bunch of trash.
I really wanted to bring it up only because it's been pushed especially hard in the last several years. And a lot of people out in the civilian world that I know of and that I've talked to feel that the sensitivity type training is literally just a load of bullshit.
It is.
So, the use of force continuum and alternatives to lethal force. When it comes to police and the use of force,
the force continuum.
I have a little bit of insight because at one point I was going through the police academy, but I also understand that police have literal split seconds to make a decision. And they have only the information in front of them to react with.
Yep.
Everybody who sees the event unfold on video or from a distance and then whatnot gets different angles, different perspectives, different amounts of time to review and judge and everything else.
Yeah. You got to have the totality of the circumstance to know exactly what's happening.
It is my own opinion that judging people for the use of force before all the details are out is wholly unjust because you do not know what they saw. We had an officer up here in Ohio, I want to say it was a couple years ago, ended up shooting a person because they reached into their car to get something. The narrative was they were trying to get something to give to the officer. The officer saw a black object being withdrawn from the car. The officer said it appeared to him to be a firearm. The subject had been unruly and angry towards the officer. So when they turned around quickly and with their arm extended with the object in it, the officer reacted.
Yeah.
Everybody who saw the video from that angle said, yes, I would have done the same thing. Everybody who saw it from a different angle said, oh, that was clearly not a gun. You can see right there.
Well, it's because you're not at the same angle.
From there you can see, but how about from here?
Right.
So, yeah, he ended up, it turned out to not be a gun, but it was the way that they were acting. And it was the way that they presented the object.
Yeah.
And then the same applies for a traffic stop. When a cop pulls you over and they see somebody just shifting around and rifling around and shit and being all weird in their car, their senses and their awareness gets heightened. Their readiness gets heightened. They're already ready for something to go wrong. So if you get pulled over, just sit there and wait. That's all you got to do.
Yeah. That's also a lot of training scenarios and stuff in that, because there's been many times I watch officers and state troopers on the side of the road when they're doing their traffic stops, and I want to scream that you're such a rookie, because they end up going into the fatal funnel of the vehicle and they go past that line where the two doors, 4-door sedan, you got that part in the middle where the two doors meet up, and you're not supposed to go past that. And there's so many times I watch an officer just walk right up, put their head right up into the window there. And it's like, all it would take is just one jackass to go, guess what? I'm killing a cop today. And there had been nothing that officer could do about it because they put themselves in that place. And every time I see it, I'm just like, you're all dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What was that, Gibbs?
One of my recommendations would be to anybody in the civilian world that's never really had any firearms training or situational training. There are many local training places. Local is a relative term depending on where you live, but you can do some of these active shooter or some of these even self-defense scenarios to be able to understand how quickly you have to decide whether to use that firearm. I know we've discussed it before a lot in firearms on this channel and in this podcast, but it's something to where, and I do have to reiterate, don't be too hard on certain officers before you know all of the information, all the circumstances, and to understand that there might be a lot of other information, things like they're looking out for local gangs, local violence. They might have fit the profile for someone that they're really worried about, or there's something going on. You never really know. I see this all the time with a lot of media where people put out absolute BS stuff. And by the way, because of the problems with AI, I want everybody to be extremely careful going forward. If there's any sort of shooting or anything that happens, there are already people trying to do this stuff and create fake shootings, fake violence, fake things. This is going to be something that's going to be a big issue. Or they're going to take the actual videos and distort them. So I really, 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 and I'm not one to trust the media. I'm not one to really do that, but do not just knee-jerk reaction, regardless whether it's in defense of a victim or an officer or a bystander, whoever. Please reserve your judgments and don't be just going online and spreading hate or anything like that, either way or the other, because you don't really know anymore what's going on. And you also don't know all the events leading up to that. The second part of the point I wanted to make, which is something that you are 100% right when we talk about, we don't know all the circumstances when it comes to these things. Look at what happened in, let's just say, the hands up, don't shoot the Zimmerman case. Or look even what happened with George Floyd and everything else. There's been so many situations where a media narrative comes out that is pushed, and you find out days, weeks, or even months later that was not the whole totality. Yeah. So,
and I
while
feel
it's easy to be,
I was gonna say I feel bad for that rookie that was from that George Floyd thing. He was a scapegoat. He should not have gotten toasted. Hit. Yeah.
And the sad part is he did what was recommended and trained in that police department.
Yeah.
That's the sad part, is it could have been any other officer that would have done exactly the same thing. And if you watch the entirety of the police tapes with Floyd, what really stinks is like the dude was on a lot of different drugs. There were a lot of things going on with it, and the police handled it by the book. And what's crazy is it's kind of hard to, it sucks. Sometimes you can't avoid an accident, or sometimes you can't avoid an unfortunate circumstance. Do I think anyone deserves to die or something like that? No, that's not it at all. That's tragic. But at the same point, when a civilian or a citizen doesn't do anything to help their situation, and they force it down to that point, you have to look at it from sometimes the officer perspective going, what else can they do? And sometimes you leave officers with no choice. When you're talking about, hey, if you're being pulled over, like you were mentioning earlier, people being shifty and acting weird, I know it sounds simple, but like if you're not doing anything illegal, and if you're just chill with an officer, I don't know about you, maybe it's because of my like experience and how I'm just like very nice and chill with everybody. I have never once had a bad interaction with an officer, and I live near a big metropolitan area that is known to have like BS police. And every time, even if I was pulled over speeding, I'd be like, hey, how you doing? What can I do? I'll help you with. They're like, you were speeding. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm a dumbass. Sorry about that. And they're like, cool, just don't do it again. I'm like, thanks. I appreciate it. Have a nice day. And that's it. Like,
that's because of the fact that you're being a nice person. Yeah, you may take a lump, but most officers, I didn't hardly ever know any when I was working, that if you were nice to them, they were going to treat you like crap.
Yeah,
I appreciated when the person was like, oh, hey, how are you doing? I'm sorry what I did. Before you even had a chance to speak, it's like, well, thank you for acknowledging that you screwed up. Here's your warning and be on your way.
exactly. And I know anecdotal information is not going to be valid for everybody. I'm aware of that. But if you just understand that those are also people doing a job and have a little bit of compassion, that can go a long way. Because I have had officers even be like, because I'm that kind of person when I go to shows and go to places, I usually say hi, like, how are things going? What's up? How you doing? Especially like in my line of work, since we do work with a couple local police departments, like fixing vehicles and doing stuff, it's like I interact with them a lot. So for me, it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just my experience, but I've never had any issues. But that's also not treating them like a piece of shit. Whereas I see a lot of people that automatically like, fuck you, you're this, you're that, you're a scum. It's like, well, you're not helping yourself, buddy. No. If you're getting pulled over and already acting like a jackass, it's like, well, why wouldn't the officer arrest? Like, I hate to say that, but like, it's like,
I think my favorite officer interaction video I've seen as of late was the gay couple out in California who was pulled over, and he ended up threatening one with being detained by the Humane Society because he identified as a cat.
Wow.
And his identification was a collar, and he was driving the car and everything.
Oh, geez.
I'll have to try to link that or something, but it was hilarious. But the cop handled it wonderfully. He was like, okay, so here are your options. You can either do this or you can do this.
Is it the one that basically said that, like, well, if you identify as a cat or an animal, that means you're not actually legally allowed to drive a vehicle?
Uh-huh.
So, like, I'm going to have to ask you to exit the vehicle and have somebody else that's legally allowed to drive this? And then I realized, like, oh, shit, I can't actually identify as that. Like, that's good. Yeah. That's because he did cite, he's like, well, that's actually a legal issue. So, like, exactly. You're not licensed. Like, I have to tell you. But the law applies to people. Yep. If you're identifying as not a people, then what can I do?
You're kind of giving up that privilege. Yeah, I had one where it was two young ladies in a BMW. We recently changed the policies in DC about how we impounded vehicles and stuff. Well, vehicle wasn't registered. Young lady, she had a license, but she didn't have insurance on her. And gosh, what was I originally pulling her over for? I think it was like a taillight out or something like that. It was something simple. So pull him over. I come up, introduce myself like always, tell him why I pulled him over, and immediately is just going nuts. Like, how dare you pull us over? Just full on Karen moment. And
how dare you?
So, yeah, I remember the reason I pulled him over because the tags were janky. So because it was unregistered vehicle, technically at that time, we're able to impound the vehicle and stuff if we wanted when you're going to do documentation for something like that. So it was left up to us, officer's discretion at that time. I don't know what it is now. And she just ran her mouth like, do you know who my daddy is and all that crap? And I was like, no. And you're talking to me like I care. I just straight up told her, like, look, either you cooperate with this traffic stop, you're going to get some tickets. You're going to need to call your father. Maybe we can get something worked out. I'm trying to be the nice guy because, the vehicle's unregistered. You can't technically drive it because it's not registered to be on the road. And they just kept running their mouth, like both the passenger and the driver, both young ladies just got belligerent. So finally I stepped them out of the car, which, according to the Supreme Court, an officer can pull somebody out of the vehicle anytime during a traffic stop for any reason. If officer tells you to get out of the car, guess what? Get out of the car. So stepped them out of the car, took the keys, told them you're going to have to figure out where you're going to go, but you're not taking the car because I'm impounding it. Ooh, they were pissed. It went from angry to spicy. And I kept a cool composure about it because for me it was like, well, I'm gonna have to do extra paperwork. But that's okay because now they're getting a learning moment. They shouldn't have ran their damn mouth. And I was always the one that, if you're nice to me, I'm going to be nice back. You treat me the way I want to be treated, and I'll treat you the same. But if you treat me like garbage, well, there's lots of laws that people don't pay attention to that I can absolutely get you for. Pull a dude over for running a red light. Oh, I didn't run the red light. It was yellow. Oh, you ran a yellow light. Congratulations. It's on body camera. Here's your ticket for running a yellow light. DC, you're not allowed to run a yellow light.
Even
That's stupid.
even if it would be dangerous to break.
Yep. It's one of those tickets where you don't write it very often, because we're looking for red light runners. We're not looking for yellow light runners. But it's there for discretion, like in my particular instance where, the driver's being a smart ass because he already, had a bit of an attitude with me. And when I go to get his information from him, he makes the utterance that he didn't run a red light. He, in fact, ran a yellow light. It was yellow when he passed the white stop line. Oh, okay. I gotcha. And I guess he wasn't aware that in District of Columbia, you are not to run a yellow light.
How does that apply to out-of-state drivers?
Because of the fact that you've driven into another state or the district, what have you, you're still subject to those road regulations because it's not a right, it's a privilege. So you
fun
are
fact,
you're subject to those regulations. Sorry.
No, that's okay. Because if you think that's crazy. So Massachusetts has this thing where you could turn right on a red, meaning if the light is red, but you want to just make a right turn, but you can't do it in Rhode Island. And there are a couple of towns in Massachusetts, like Cambridge, where now it's illegal to do it in that town. So Rhode Island is something is like a state that we frequently visit because it's right there. It's tiny, it's small, it's right there. They make a killing off of purposely having that different law just so they could ticket you. They will literally, if you're like a Massachusetts driver driving down to like Providence near Rhode Island, they will follow you and wait and watch. And they'll say, I know you're going to fucking do it. I know you are. And I've had them follow me for miles. That's literally, it's like having Jaws follow you around behind. Like it's nuts. But some of the towns in Mass, because they're trying to say, due to citing traffic safety issues, they're like, oh yeah, well we can't have people taking a right on red anymore. But reality is they're going to charge like a $200 or $300 fine if you do it. So they're just looking to raise revenue.
Yeah, that's all that is. Yeah, right on red, and you're going to charge somebody. Oh, that's absolutely a money grab.
If the penalty for breaking the law is only a fine, then the law only exists to generate revenue.
Exactly.
That's why it shouldn't be fines. It should be community service time. That way it affects everybody equally, regardless whether you're rich or poor.
Yeah.
Now, I mean...
No, you go.
Okay. I was going to bounce into the whole, professional development and one-off academy training. The one thing I know DC does that's really good, they have a active shooter course. It's a large building with a school, a bar, a townhouse, and then of course the police station area where we've put away weapons, pull out airsoft guns and stuff like that, which they shoot soap pellets. So, and you get training from, because it's also got a four-way intersection with a 90-degree turn on one point, and you can do traffic stops. You're able to do everything under the sun for scenarios, and with that, I feel like we were getting a lot better training with that. So when you have the scenes where, the catastrophe in Texas where, there's an active shooter in the kids' school and then the officers are all standing there with one on his freaking cell phone and they let all those kids die, DC, we're preparing for the worst case scenario. Thank God it hasn't happened. But when it does go down, at least I know for a fact our people were ready for it, because of the fact that we're going and doing room clearings on a monthly basis or yearly basis, depending on where you're working in the department. At least once or twice a year, you're going into active duty, active shooting course. And it's always like different scenarios and stuff.
You would think at a minimum, those kind of facilities would be at least one in every state. And that way each county or each town could rotate in and out of doing training there, or like you sign up for it.
Or something.
Yeah, like that to me seems so simple. That should be a requirement to do that at least yearly, that kind of stuff, and re-qualify for everything.
Yeah, I mean, when they first put it up and we were all getting, training, we got like, breaking a door down, gaining access to a building or breaking the door down, and, special doors with like wood clips. So that way it gave that simulated resistance that you would have when you're trying to break open the locked door and stuff. The one thing I always pointed out that will never leave my brain, which it was stupid, funny, but at the same time serious. One of the instructors, when we were going into active shooter scenario, going through the top level of the school, and the one instructor is supposed to be playing the bad guy, and he's got a pistol and he's got a baby doll who's supposed to be acting like a real baby. The officer goes into the room where the bad guy, quote unquote, is, and opens fire and unfortunately hits the baby. The scenario immediately ends. The instructor is now yelling at the top of his lungs, "Why the fuck did you just shoot the baby?" And I'm standing out in the hallway when it happened, just like, oh my God, only in where I'm working would something like this dumb crap happen. So I walk in there and the instructor's got this kid damn near, or adult, excuse me, kid for me, but he's just damn near in tears because he's like, "Why would you shoot the baby?" And he's like, "But you had a gun." He's like, "But I'm a baby." Oh, God. But it was, just good training and, making people think, to give them the moment of clarity for those split second decisions. So that way, hopefully, if you were to ever end up in that scenario, you don't shoot the baby.
Yeah. Well, if you ever watch the movie Speed, you know why you shoot the baby.
Well, yeah, but still,
you remove the hostage from the equation.
Yeah. The problem is all the investigative work, the paperwork, the media attention. Right. Oh, yeah.
Why did you shoot the hostage? Well, he could no longer use the hostage.
Yeah. It's like you say in the military, you're ready to bend over and take it because it's gonna hurt a lot.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, I don't want to be that hostage.
No.
Which brings us to the importance of better public support for police officers.
Yeah.
Acknowledging the difficult and dangerous aspect of policing. It is a dangerous job. It is a necessary job. It is one that we all need and we all don't want to have to do. So the need for community engagement and positive police community relations. I would say that's a pretty big, important point there.
Yes.
Ensuring officers have adequate resources, mental health support, fair compensation. I remember in the other episodes you were here for, you had said the mental health stuff is fairly lacking for the officers, at least in the DC area.
I mean, it is lacking. They at least try. There is the 6 appointment program that you have to go through when you use your service weapon. And being the first one is right there while you're out there on the scene. If the opportunity is there, and everything's calmed down. But otherwise, I
would think probably within 24 hours of, if nothing else.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Just like whenever you hear on the TV and they're talking about, oh yeah, there was officer involved shooting, the officers are now on administrative leave and stuff. It's not because it's bad. It's because they're trying to make sure the officer is taken care of, because regardless of who it is, it's a traumatizing experience to take a human life.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that think they can just do it. And if they actually think they can, then wait until they have to try. I guarantee you they will freeze.
It's one of those things where, and I hope to never, ever, ever have to be faced with that situation. But boy, do you really understand the true value and weight of a human life if you're having to sit there and having to make that decision.
Yeah.
Like that's not, anybody that tells you it's an easy decision to make, I disagree with them on that one.
Well, okay.
That's
what's the
obviously
internet?
Situation dependent, obviously, because there's certain.
Well, yeah. What's the internet safe term? The PDF files.
Technically, yeah.
They will always be
Or maps, technically.
Yes, them too. They will always be chipper lubricant still in the flesh.
They are they are pre-compost.
Yes. I love that HBC or HBL, habitual line crosser, he actually made the character Chippy, the wood chipper. That's great. He made it just for them.
But definitely with more support and resources, definitely has to be training.
Oh
Also
God, yes,
as well,
training.
Training has got to be the big thing, as well as this is something else I know we spoke about maybe making it so the officers have a little bit more time in terms of being able to take some time for not only training, but catch up on paperwork, maybe having one shift a week where they spend a little bit more time in the station and less time being stressed out and about. You know, maybe just having it to where there's more of a balance with it. Because don't get me wrong, I know a lot of officers that like to make a ton of money and work a ton of hours, but to be honest with you, the more hours you work, the less likely you're going to be able to make, smart decisions or informed decisions being out there. Yep. And if you're effectively judge, jury, and executioner, you better be on your A game as much of the time as you can be. So,
yeah,
if anything,
especially
I'd advocate for hiring more officers so the officers that are there still get paid well, but don't have to be as stressed as many hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, especially if we make the dystopian shift into the Judge Dredd timeline.
Oh my!
Oh God, no! No, I am the law. No. Oh God, no!
You have been judged.
Oh Jesus!
Yeah, if they're gonna hire more officers, they need to be less like my department was, and let's put the same name down 3 or 4 times on the hired list. So that way we can say we have more officers than we really do.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Dude, people should get arrested for that shit. What?
Yeah, I saw the Excel sheet before I got, medically retired, and my name was on there like 3 times. I was there in triplicate. I was like, where are my clones at? We need to work together.
Clone bone.
But I mean, I thought this was. I don't know how somebody got a hold of that stinking list either, because it's always been talked about in DC. If you work there, that there's not enough of us, but then they'll have the public answer of, we have over 3,500 officers or 3,700 officers, whatever their number is right now. But in reality, everybody knows what the real number is. And then when I saw the list, I was like, I was right. It's a ghost town.
And you wonder why it's hard to find officers now.
Yeah.
Especially with the climate and everything with it.
And you got politicians working as officials and treating everybody like they're 12, It's hard to keep people.
Well, yeah. But, the last point on that was balancing support with the demand for accountability. We've already kind of touched on the accountability aspect, but rethinking the catch and release programs.
That's a failure in New York and California. I can tell you that right now.
Absolutely.
I will never go back to New York City while their laws are implemented the way they are. No way.
Yeah. So the catch and release, as it's commonly understood in the criminal justice situation, they literally will get you out or get you while you're doing the crime, realize they don't have the space to bring you in, slap you on the wrist, give you a fine, give you a court date, and say, all right, we'll see you there. And then it's maybe you show up.
Maybe you don't. Well, come on. Like in New York City, you could sit there and rob somebody at knife point and be back on the street before the officers even finish the paperwork. God. And be doing it again. They had somebody doing crap like that 5-6 times in one 24-hour period and never held them once because it was a misdemeanor.
I will never forget 2 years ago, there was a guy that was arrested for shoplifting and he had 27 counts. 27. Yeah. And it wasn't justifiable to keep him in jail. So they said, well, your date is this day, about 3 weeks from now. We'll see you then. And as an officer, I'd be on fucking suicide watch if I arrested some dude 27 times and the judge kept letting him out. I would question my own sanity. I'd be like, are you kidding me?
Are you
I would
kidding?
Arrest the judge at that point.
Dude, there's so many judges that need to get freaking held accountable for their bullshit. I mean, at some point, I started looking at the arrest like a bingo card. What else is this person going to do this week that I'm going to end up having to lock them up for? Because the citizens already know that they're not going to do anything about it. The odds in D.C. that you commit a crime that it's even going to get papered anyways are pretty freaking low. So you can commit crime and have a good chance of not getting prosecuted. Oh, and then if you do end up before the judge, are they going to find probable cause? Because again, with the body camera issue, does it match up to the narrative? No. Well, guess what? Now it's thrown out. So now your odds have gone up even more. I mean, at this point, it's like, why follow the law when nobody's going to enforce it? Except for the low level law enforcement officers. But even then, like you said, Gibbs, I mean, at some point, you're just going to say F it.
Now, that's part of the issue, and I've heard that from numerous officers being like, this is fucking stupid. Like, why am I even doing this job? And that's why, unfortunately, if you see it in Boston, because Boston is a sanctuary city, you see what ends up happening, the amount of people that, up until recently, they would just let shit happen, because they're like, what's the point in arresting them? They're just going to walk. Yeah. It's just going to be paperwork for me to file. Why would I get out of my cruiser where I'm comfy in air conditioning and arrest this guy who's just going to walk 3 hours from now? Or I just stay here.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but like, I can see why they're doing that.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of times when I looked at a citizen when they get mad at me, like, oh, you're just messing with me because my skin tone or race or whatever. And I'm like, you think you're special or something. Honestly, I'm getting paid the same now as I was when I was sitting there playing Tetris on my phone in an air-conditioned environment. I'd rather be in there right now than dealing with your stupidity. But because I have a job that I have to do at some point, I have to deal with you.
Yeah, it's monotonous to say the least. And I think that judges need to have their records reviewed at some point.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, that one lady out west that she let an illegal alien go out the back.
And, she got hers finally.
Finally. And then she's claiming that she has immunity and she shouldn't be arrested. It's like, bitch, please.
No, ma'am.
You committed a crime when you weren't even on the bench. Just because you're a judge doesn't mean you're immune to the law. She committed that crime while she was walking the hallway.
Yep.
It doesn't matter where she is. She is a citizen like anybody else.
Yeah.
She's aiding and abetting and obfuscating the law. Don't do the time if you can't do the, you know what I mean?
Don't do a crime, you can't do the time. That's right.
Fuck around, find out. I don't have to tell you.
And anybody that sits there and says, oh, she's immune from that, they need to get slapped. Because now you're just warping the law.
But then the problem is, does that set the precedent that judges actually are above the law? And in which case, does that mean inversely that a judge could remove somebody that is here legally or vice versa? Are they allowed to just say, hey, you are now here legally or illegally regardless and remove them for any reason? Because apparently that's the precedent that we're setting, is they can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
If so, I want to be a judge, because then everywhere I go, I want to carry a 25 millimeter fucking howitzer around with me, because I'm a judge. I can do whatever the fuck I want, and if you don't like it, kablam! Like I was to tell you, like, ala kablam. I don't know, like it's just stupid.
El Kabong is back again.
Yo. So yeah, like I get the goal for the catch and release program is to reduce overcrowding in the jails and to protect the possible discrimination that people might face during the
some people do
process.
some people do get discriminated against. However, the way they implement these catch and release programs is absolute fallacy. It's disgusting because of the fact that as human beings, if we're given an inch, we're going to take it. We're greedy. We're self-serving. We will take care of ourselves before we help other people for the most part. If it's family or close friends, yeah, we'll go stick our neck out for them because that's just how we evolved. But when it comes to the whole tribe and the whole world mentality, we're going to get ours if given the opportunity. So if you sit there and tell somebody like in California, oh, it was a felony before when you sat there and shoplifted a certain amount, but now we're going to just make it a misdemeanor and you're not even going to go to jail. Look what happened. That state got ran over with the amount of crime because of the fact that, okay, yeah, we're trying to appease people and trying to reduce jailhouse usage. However, you're not taking into account people are going to take advantage of that crap. And nobody wants to acknowledge that's on that side to go, oh, you know, people aren't inherently bad, but if you give them the opportunity, again, they're going to take care of themselves. And with prices and everything, the environment being the way it is nowadays, hey, I can get something for free because I can take it and nobody's going to ding me for it because it's not over $100. Hey, guess what? I'm getting something free today. It's that easy.
It's the classic case of if they actually enforced the laws and penalties and they actually arrested people when they broke the law, you wouldn't have overcrowding in jails. It's this weird problem where if people knew they were going to be held accountable, they wouldn't break the law. It's very interesting when you notice in places like Texas, especially in rural Texas where everybody's armed, you notice a lot of shit doesn't happen because the odds of somebody else carrying something at least 9mm, if not 45, and you getting your shit rocked by deciding to fuck around, you're just not going to fucking do it. Like, no. And so, and vice versa, it's the same thing. If people aren't going to break the law nearly as much if they know, oh, I'm going to get caught and the judge is going to throw the book at me and I'm not going to have a good time.
Exactly.
So if they actually enforced the law, they wouldn't have to worry about overcrowding, so they wouldn't have to let people go because it's overcrowded. It's a self-fulfilling fucking problem that they keep thinking that, oh, just being lax around people is going to solve it. No. That's not how this works.
Case in point, I was sitting in court the one day, shocking, and in between trials, I had this gentleman that was there because he got arrested for riding unauthorized motor vehicle in public space, i.e. either a ATV or a motor or dirt bike or something like that wasn't registered for public use on public space, like the road. And in DC, the violation for that is like damn near a slap on the wrist. You're talking a couple $100 fine, maybe a few weeks in prison or jail if, you know, the judge is really cranky that day, which for something like that, never. So what happens? DC now has a epidemic problem of people running up and down the streets with ATVs like it's culture now because it's been allowed. But yet
I just kind of picture people in golf carts like left and right in DC now.
Yeah. So I can actually attest to this. This is a problem in my local city where they have these rides where basically you'll get several hundred guys in ATVs and motorcycles and they go around as a gang. They will drive downtown the city. They'll block off entire roads and streets. Like there have been times where I'm trying to get home from work and literally it's like, oh, great. These jackasses are out. And literally I can't move. I can't go anywhere. The police don't do anything. They stay 500 to 1,000 feet back and they just kind of follow them. and all of a sudden that whole gang will meet me at a certain street and they just disperse. It's like cockroaches, and they're gone. And you just hear them in the distance. They'll drive right by my house in groups of 50 or 100.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
And don't you have a truck?
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, but here's the problem. I'm always going to be in the wrong if I do that. So,
well, and the crazy part is, like I was saying, when I talked to this cat, he's like, nobody's going to stop doing it because nobody's enforcing the law. The judge is just going to keep slapping people on the wrist. He's like, I've been arrested now like 3 or 4 times for the same thing. He's like, I'm leaving after this. He's like, I already know I'm going to go off to work, do whatever. He's like, I'm not going to stop because there's nothing to stop me. He's like, as far as I see it, it's just the price of admission to be able to ride on the road. Yeah. And so many are doing it. And then you get the fact that you're not allowed to chase them. The police department's officials have made it to where, you have to keep an eye on them. You keep your eyes on them. We got to know where they are. So that way we can try to help the public stay safe. If you took the time to arrest these fools and actually held them accountable for what they're doing, you wouldn't have to do that. Just saying. Do
you want me to give you the part 2 of this whole problem? So ever since COVID, because Boston and my local city is registered as a sanctuary city, that means if you identify as somebody that is asylum seeking or is a victim or something like that, or is not a citizen, and you do this stuff, they don't arrest you. There's nothing they could do.
Interesting.
So they just do it. They just do whatever. It doesn't matter. They are not beholden to those laws.
Yeah,
that's a good bit of information to have in your back pocket.
Right.
Just be careful in sanctuary cities, my friends. That's all I'm saying. It's a pain in the ass.
Exactly. All right, I have to go, gentlemen, unfortunately.
Oh, good.
All right, man. Well, thank you for hanging out with us while you could.
Yes.
We'll keep the show going, and we'll finish up. But I do appreciate you taking time out of your night to give us your input where you could.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Until next time, guys.
All right. Have a good one, man.
Absolutely, man. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So we can pick back up. Where were we? Public concerns. With him, we had already kind of talked about a lot of this. I had the potential for reoffense while awaiting trial, the perceived lack of consequences. He was literally just talking about that. Yep. And then the impact on victim confidence and community safety. Literally everything he was just saying.
Oh, yeah.
If there's nothing to deter people from not doing the thing, they will continue to do the things. So that takes us right in to sentencing, penalties, and judicial integrity. I know a little bit ago I was talking about the judges. So stricter penalties for some crimes. I know your head's about to come off your shoulders. You're shaking it. So go ahead and take this one.
Yeah. So here's the way I think about it. If it's a crime with a victim, any sort of violent crime, something like that, the penalties need to go way up. And
Yes.
I think people need to actually be charged with these crimes. And here's the thing. It doesn't just need to be that you are kind of locked in a cell. I do feel like there needs to be some sort of method to where, and this gets into the prison system a little bit, to where you should also have to do physical work or some work of value to repay those that were affected. It should not just be the case of the state paying the money or something else. No. You got to earn your way. You got to earn your keep by also being in prison.
Yeah.
The part 2 of this is that I do not believe there should be crimes or anything like that where you only pay a fine. I do not believe in that, because that to me seems very stupid. It should be based off of community service hours or something that takes up your time. Because money is something you can always get more money. You can't get more time.
Right.
So fuck you if you're going to decide to drive drunk and be an asshole. You know what? You're going to spend the next 2 years every fucking weekend, whether you got a holiday or not. You're going to work Monday through Friday, and then your weekend, you're going to be sitting there picking up trash on the side of the highway, or rebuilding some of our roads, or doing something of value. because not only one is it going to teach you the lesson, but also number two, you're going to understand how huge of an inconvenience it is for people to act like pieces of shit. And I just don't think certain crimes just paying a fine makes sense to me. It doesn't make much sense. Because in a lot of those cases, a lot of the penalties, it's not going to stop them from doing it again.
No.
It's not going to really change anything.
If there are people that have money, it becomes a thing of it literally just costs this much to do that. And that's it. That's the mentality they take.
Do you know what the more recent examples I saw, which I want chat to fact check me on this one? I saw an article that was talking about how Jeff Bezos, he has shrubs in the front of his house that are like 20 feet tall. You can't see into his property. But in Los Angeles, there are laws about how tall the shrubs can be. He makes so much money, he just pays the fine every day. He doesn't care.
I read that. Yeah.
Now, it could be false, but I've known other situations where people do that kind of thing. To where they don't give a shit. Why would they care? To them, that is literally less than pennies for someone like you or I. So they just pay the fine, whatever. I just really don't think, I don't like the idea of our American justice system saying, hey, you owe us money for you breaking a law. It's like, well, then you're basically just leveraging laws to raise revenue. That's fucking useless. No. Yeah. It should be always, hey, your sentence for this is your time, your effort. You have to do something to make the community better than before the crime you committed. That's how it should work. That way, guess what? We'd have clean roads. We'd have clean areas. We'd have nice parks. We'd have all these other things. And there's other countries that do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The part that I did already kind of cover, which is like, if the penalty for a crime is something to where it's like 5 to 10 years for something like that, and they say, judge says, well, they seem like a nice guy, I'm going to give him 2 years, then a year community service, then what the fuck are the guidelines for anyway? Like,
right.
If you're hurting people, intentionally causing harm, now I am willing to extend an olive branch. I think your first offense, even if it's a minor violent crime, I'm willing to say, hey, maybe if you kind of get your act together, do some community service, seek some counseling, do some stuff, I'm willing to give someone one chance to get their act together. The second time around, no, throw the book at them. I'm sorry. Nope.
Yeah.
You didn't learn your lesson. Especially if it's something as selfish things like drunk driving or something like that. But if it's any of the, how do I say that's appropriate? Any of the worst crimes you can think of, cough, cough, any of those ones. No quarter is given. No.
Yeah.
No. Nope.
Yeah. The ones that involve basically the sex crimes.
Yes.
No matter how you spin that, any kind of those.
Yep. Oh, the only way I could think of is if it was something like it was like some sort of weird misunderstanding or there's some legal bullshittery. But even then, that's like 0.001% of the time. You know what I mean?
The guys that get drunk and take a leak behind a dumpster out in public.
Yeah, something
those guys end up on a list.
See, that's not in the spirit of
that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's not in the spirit of the law. Like that to me doesn't make sense. Or like someone I know, not close to them, but I know of them, that they got put on a list because a woman lied to them about their age. And so when they went out with them and have a little fun, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm this age. The parents got involved. He got, sued and all that and arrested. And now he's on a list. And it's like, I always felt bad for the dude because like he fucking lied. Like it was in text messages and everything by a year. But the judge said, well, that's no excuse of the law. And you got fucked.
Yeah, that's horse shit.
So again, it's one of those things where
it's provable.
But some judges, and that's part of the problem. Is it's up to their discretion for some things.
I knew of a situation once where a guy had gone to a bar. It was like a 21 and up bar. Met a girl. They hung out for a while. They did things.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting hit with some shit. Turns out she was only like 19.
And she was illegally there?
Not 19. She was 17. That's what it was. Oof. So she was way underage.
How'd she get in?
Fake ID.
Oh, well, then he can't be held accountable at that point because, like...
Well, according to the law, he could. She even went to court trying to just or defend him, saying, no, my parents want this. I don't. I lied. I used a fake ID, brought the fake ID, and was like, this is what I did. This is what I used. This is how I dressed. This is just my parents trying to control me and make my life a living hell.
Oh.
And the judge was like, well, the law's the law.
Mm-hmm. Which
it's like, how is that fair if you're at a club that cards, the bouncer didn't do their job appropriately, or if they did, the ID was really good. She broke the law in having the fake ID, being underage and going to the club. So he had every right to assume that she was at least 21. He would never have had the thought to question, hey, are you at least 18 years of age?
No, but it's
especially in today's society. If the amount of people who in that like specific age range look one way or the other, dude, it's tough.
I find it disgusting. I got to be honest with you. I find it weird, and I just it gives me just ugh. It's one of those things where I really wish. And granted, I am not a parent, so feel free to hold me the fires on this one. You know, put my ass on the coals. But if you're a parent and you are totally okay with like your late teen kids trying to act like 21 and 25-year-olds or something like that range, and you think that's okay, I think you're out of your fucking gourd. I'm sorry. No. The amount of shit that I see younger kids, particularly usually younger girls, fucking posting, it scares me. Like again, I love my little sister to death, but I've seen like what she shares from some of her friends. On occasion, she'll like share a post, something like that. I'm like, Jesus Christ, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, no, it just, and again, you know, call me crazy, call me whatever, but it's like, why are parents okay with kids acting like that? I don't understand. When they not only do not understand what they're messing with, and have no idea, they're not mentally developed enough to understand kind of what's going on, but they also don't understand legally that regardless of whether they're in the right or they're in the wrong, they can fuck up someone's life, and there's no way around it.
Well, you said the key word there. They can fuck up someone else's life.
Yes.
If they don't fuck up their own life, I don't think they have that level of care.
But that's insane to me.
That is something I have seen in this younger generation. But we're kind of getting off topic.
I know. We do
that's a discussion for the how fucked this generation of kids is. That one's still on the burner.
And you know what's even going to be greater is I bet you the next generation of kids are going to be even worse. It's just going to keep getting worse, man. Just you wait. You think this is bad?
I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Just
wait till the generation of kids when your kids are having kids, and then all of a sudden you're going to realize, like, wow, we have a entire generation of kids that literally they are born and the government gives them a free iPad that they start off with on day one. That's how they communicate with everything. It's gonna be great.
It's Wally.
It is Wally. That's where we're going.
Wally is our future. Congratulations.
Non-consensually, but it is.
Yeah.
But back to the original.
Back to the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's not the Now We Consume podcast without us having a sidebar.
That's all we are sidebars. That's really what it is.
Sidebars and foxholes.
Exactly. But I would agree with you. Made a point of ensuring proportionality in sentencing. And I think that was kind of what we've been talking about to where.
Yeah. And on that, in a previous episode, I had said that some crimes should absolutely have the penalties grossly increased.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like I'm even willing to go as far as some of the worst crimes, you should be in solitary confinement for years.
No, see, I think they should be allowed 3 options. The first option is you get 10 years hard labor. And what you do is you learn how to rebuild our roads, our infrastructure, and you do it right. You don't just half-ass bullshit. You get 10 years of like, hey, you spend 10 years every day, 8 to 10 hours a day. I don't care what the weather is. you're out there shoveling asphalt, shoveling dirt, painting lines, painting roads, stuff like that. Option 2, which I agree with you, or we do the solitary confinement, where basically you have a small little job that you do. You know, like the old traditional joke of like, you know, you're doing the punch press for the license plates or whatever. You do some sort of job that at least pays for your stay, and you pays for a concrete room with a cot, with a pillow. You get 3 meals a day, and you do that job, and you do that until you die. That is your existence, because that's the choice you've chosen. Or option 3, which is a far more cost-effective solution, is to simply end it. Simply say, you know what? Clearly you are not fit for this society. I'm sorry. Or not sorry, depending on what you did. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Really depends.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the death penalty here in just a second. But yeah, focusing on violent crimes and the repeat offenders. The repeat offenders is one of the things that really gets me, because where do you draw the line? Like you said, 27 convictions for shoplifting. I mean, okay, we're not one of those countries who cuts off people's hands. So what do you do? Where do you draw the line? How do you stop it?
There needs to be an escalation of the proportional sentencing when you do something more times. So it's one of those things where, for instance, I do believe in like the first offense, like should be a slap on the wrist. Like the first time, like for shoplifting, should be like, hey, don't fucking do this. Here's 1 month of community service, and you owe the company back double the amount of value in what you're trying to shoplift. Learn your lesson. Second time, all right, now you're going to jail for a year. Third time, now you go to jail for 5 years. Fourth time, all right, dumbass. You know, clearly we haven't learned a lesson. So then you escalate it to something more, but it should be escalating almost exponentially in what the sentencing should be.
So I remember maybe back in the 90s, the 2000s, that kid that got caned.
Was it Singapore?
I think it was, I'm pretty sure it was Singapore, but I want to say that they tried it here. It was like a one time. I don't think it's still a thing. But I know in like Singapore, they do canings daily, publicly, if I'm not mistaken. But speaking of Singapore, we have a listener in Singapore. They download and listen to all of our episodes. So Hello, random listener in Singapore. We hope you're enjoying.
Singaporean super fan over here. I appreciate it.
Right. But yeah, the canings are something to that level of A, public, B, intense punishment. I'm kind of on the fence, but I think those levels of punishment could potentially stop some of that stuff. It comes back to the days of we stopped spanking our kids, so now they're more unruly. So if we spank the adults, maybe they'll be less unruly. Now, some adults might like it.
I was going to say, you're barking up the wrong tree with that one for a lot of people. But it
just has to be done in a way that will not be enjoyed.
You have a lot of weird people being like, so am I getting arrested?
Cane me, daddy.
Arrest me, daddy.
Give me the cane.
So it's...
Your punishment is caning. Yes!
But it's... I do agree that there has to be some point to where the punishment should be enough of a deterrent. But also at the same point, I do think there are some people that maybe don't understand that certain crimes are crimes. So we got to have a little leniency for the first time. Past that, nah, Chief. No. And I would agree there are certain things that also, like, not for nothing, I hate to say it, but like public humiliation can be a very effective strategy for certain things.
Right.
Like there's a reason why the stockade was effective for quite a while, like the public stocks where you just got,
Yep. which also turned into a thing.
Oh.
Now bed frames have those.
Every time we arrest people for a few hundred years, all of a sudden they want to do it in the bedroom. I want to tell you. They really
handcuffs, spanking, the stocks,
I know. Next thing it's going to be fucking waterboarding. I want to tell you.
Hey, don't kink shame me.
Oh, fuck. That's why you have a 5-gallon bucket of water in your bedroom. This makes sense.
Shut up. You weren't supposed to say anything.
Oh, sorry, I saw it. But imagine having to explain that to somebody that has no idea.
At least it wasn't baby oil.
Just slipping and sliding all over the bedroom, you know. I don't need to walk. I just slither.
Let me just slide on over there.
Honestly,
we need to do an episode on the Diddy trial, by the way.
Dude.
Once that gets settled.
The problem is getting concrete info because there's so much shit out there right now. It's damn near impossible. But you know what? That would be the most terrifying way to imagine you're in the middle of the night. Because someone's sliding across the floor in baby oil, you can't hear a sound. So all of a sudden, out of the darkness, you just see this face just
glisten up into your space.
Oh man.
Oh, especially if it's someone like me who just gets up there and just like moist.
Oh no, God no. Jesus.
Oh,
So. God, anyway, I'm sorry. We get off track, but so
that'd be good to do in a gimp suit.
I'll take a pass on that one. You do it and tell me how you like it. How about that? I'll trust your word for it. So
the death penalty.
Yeah.
Something reserved for the most heinous of crimes. The ultimate justice for victims, deterrence for the most extreme crimes. The arguments against are the risk of executing the innocent, so putting someone to death who did not do the crime. There absolutely have been cases of that in the past. The moral and ethical concerns. Is it just to take a life for somebody who took a life? I think yes. The cost. I have some thoughts on this. I actually worked out the economics years ago of how much it would cost to be a private executioner if they brought back the use of basically a solo firing squad for the state, using your own equipment, your own ammunition and whatnot, providing the services to dig the hole, provide the head coverings, all the things involved, providing a reasonable payment for the service. I got it down to like $65,000 per execution. Considering at the time that each execution was in excess of $300,000, I felt that was a pretty good cost savings.
Considering who the fuck is making the money? Oh yeah, the prisons. I forgot. They're the ones making all the money for these executions, costing the taxpayers
and the pharmaceuticals.
Well, like, I'm sorry, there were way cheaper ways to get people.
My question is this: why are they not using all of that fucking fentanyl that they're seizing at the border? If it's so goddamn deadly, just take a spoonful, shove it in the needle, and put it into somebody. Because that's way more than you need.
Here's a question.
You need like a microgram.
Can I ask a question? Because yes. I have a question for you. Does fentanyl have to be injected, or can you just like put it on your tongue?
It has to get into your system. There have been cases where officers have
just put it in the last meal. It solves the problem. Yeah. They have their last meal and it tastes great. And then they go, "Wow, this chicken tastes fun." Like, this is not hard. Like, if it's gonna be so little, like, fuck, put it in the ketchup. I don't know. It's just like, it's weird that every criminal has a last meal that happens to have ketchup with it. I don't know why, but they really push the ketchup on them. Like, I don't know, but how is that not simple?
Yeah. So, there have been cases where officers have been involved in situations where they've had to be Narcaned multiple times because they inhaled fentanyl that was on someone's clothing.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Jesus. Thank you, China, for that, by the way.
If you take a penny and you cover the date, one number's worth.
No. Wait, hold
is
on.
how much fentanyl it takes to kill a human.
You're shitting me.
No.
So I have, but hold on. Sorry, I have a dime. I'm sorry, but hold on.
Okay. So a dime, I think it would take like 2 numbers worth because they're smaller.
Fucking Christ.
Just a single layer.
I wonder, hold on. Will it even show? No, it's not gonna,
It's not going to focus.
I was hoping it would. Put it this way. That's an insanely small amount of anything.
Mm-hmm.
That's like half the size of a fire ant.
Yeah. If you cover Lincoln on a penny,
yeah,
like a perfect single layer outline of Lincoln, you can kill most offices. Like a standard like 100-person office building.
Like, fentanyl's scary. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
So, but again, I agree with you. If we're seizing all this fentanyl, fucking,
why not put it to use?
It's free.
Like,
we already have.
We can't because it's seized evidence or some bullshit.
Yeah, and like the FBI and the CIA haven't done that before, where they've released drugs into the society, huh? Have you ever done that before, huh?
MK Ultra.
Yeah. The heroin epidemic, huh? No. The crack epidemic, the meth.
The 80s crack cocaine epidemic. Mm-hmm. Also, I think I mentioned this. I want to do an episode on whether or not the war on drugs was a psyop to control the drug trade. Yes.
Son of a bitch. I don't like how that's possible.
Yes.
See, the cartels don't know, but if we control the narrative, we can control the drugs. Perfect plan. It couldn't possibly go wrong by causing the death of millions of Americans. No, not possible. No. Jesus Christ. Why is our government's solution to everything just, we're just going to give all these people this shit and it's going to figure itself out? Yeah, no. Yeah, that worked really well with Operation Fast and Furious, you dumb fucks.
Right?
Man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is an anti-government podcast sometimes, I want to tell you. It isn't, but...
We're really not anti-government.
No.
But we are anti-people who fuck around in the government. I
think they're just anti-morons, and that's the problem, is half the people that are elected are morons.
Yes.
I think that's the issue.
Anti-stupidity.
Yeah. It's just, if they didn't do stupid shit, I wouldn't have anything to bitch about.
Exactly.
So just quit being stupid.
We wouldn't have a reason to do a podcast.
Yep.
Other than AI.
Well. That's a different... The only thing I do understand with the death penalty problem is just have to keep in mind with the possibility of executing innocent people, as long as there would be ways of having the case like double and triple checked before
they
were put on death row, then that's fine.
So if there is like absolute undeniable proof that they did this, then they get 14, 30 days, something like that, to, I guess, write an apology, try to make some kind of amends on their way out, and then you end it.
My thought would be, because hear me out on this one.
You have to allow some time for appeals.
Well, what I was going to say is, what if we increase the jury pool size? Because here's my thought. What if you increase the jury to like 100 or 101 of your peers? And the idea is if more than one person anonymously thinks there's a chance they're innocent, then it's allowed to go up for appeals and redo. But if you can convince 101 people, I'm throwing a number out of my ass, but I wanted a much larger number than the usual jury.
Right.
If 101 people can be convinced that you definitely did whatever it was and was premeditated, then like I can understand being like, yeah, this fucker's guilty. Like there's no point delaying this process. But
yeah, I'm talking like if there's video proof or like undeniable DNA proof or something, then yeah, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Here's your pill or here's your bullet. Take your pick.
But I do think it should have to be 100% of the jury anonymously agrees that they're guilty. But if even one person thinks there's a chance, then it should be up for appeals, and in which case it's run again, and then that one just has to be majority kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that
I could probably be okay with that.
I'm just thinking like obviously it shouldn't be something that's more refined, but something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Because let me tell you, trying to work with a jury, even just convincing a handful of people the same thing, even in some cases, is fucking ridiculous. If you can convince 101 people that you're definitely innocent or definitely guilty, I'm willing to bet that's probably a pretty safe bet.
Yeah. So, but as far as convincing, the judges and the use of their bench as a political post, we'd mentioned earlier that judges can take stances that are political in nature, and they can try to legislate from the bench, and that should absolutely not be allowed. Judges have a duty to be impartial and adhere to the law versus the personal or political ideology that they hold. And when executing law, I think that's probably one of the most important places to remain unbiased. A lot of the judges are elected. Some are appointed, and I'm not so sure that I like, me personally, the appointment system, especially if it's a lifetime appointment. I don't know that the Supreme Court should be a lifetime appointment.
No.
The fact that it is, and it has such loose restrictions once you're in, I'm just not okay with that. It just leaves the door open for corruption.
What it should be is I think Supreme Court should be 12 years. 12 years at maximum.
Yeah.
With the idea of you can retire anytime during that point. Lower courts, so like the big district courts, should be 8 years. Then local courts should be 4 years as a judge. So that way the idea is no matter which transition of power from which party or whatever's going on, they can't just clean sweep anywhere.
Yeah.
The idea is that it's always changing. And the reason why I think Supreme Court being 12 is really important is because if you think about it, 8 years would be every transition of power. So 12 would be at the midterm of every power. So that way, if that, current administration is doing well and people agree with it, hey, they might stay in or they might get reelected in that position. But if they're not doing well, they might get ousted. So that way, if it is a political appointee, regardless, there would be people constantly coming and going, which is where it should be.
Yeah.
So, but that's just my opinion on that one. But like, it should just be fairly obvious.
But I don't think that the general public has a very high level of faith in judges overall, just given they're so untouchable.
Yeah, and the thing is, they should not be allowed to put their own personal politics involved with it. It should be purely based on the spirit of the law. They're not there to make the law. They're there to interpret the law. And that line has been blurred for almost 100 years now. And it's a damn shame. So that's something to where what should be happening is part of the Supreme Court's job should be to look into judges that are purposefully and knowingly not following the spirit of the law or purposely obfuscating the law in a way that benefits themselves personally or their own personal beliefs rather than what's right by the law. So,
Right.
or at least above all, what's right by the Constitution.
Right.
Yeah. Be gone.
So, we'll move into our last segment here, and because we're kind of running a little bit long on time. Prison reform, beyond the punishment to rehabilitation. I know this is one thing that you've been rather passionate about with the reform part, rather the rehabilitation part.
Yeah.
If you go to jail, it shouldn't just be a vacation where you get to work out 23/7. There are so many people who go to jail and come out 10 times more massive than they were when they went in.
And the problem is too, they're forced to make connections to survive with gangs and criminal elements, and therefore they owe them, or they have to be aligned with them, or they're their easiest option when they're outside. So that's the problem. Is that there's an issue in prisons where, number one, there's no way for people to better themselves, which I'm not saying that should be a primary focus, but should be a secondary focus. If the goal is to re-enter society, you should re-enter society better than when you started. Number two, there should be a way of actually enforcing laws within prisons so that people have their own separated areas a little bit more, where they can feel safe, they can actually learn, they can actually grow, but also understand the importance of why they're there. They should have to take classes on things like, psychology, understand, do a little bit of therapy and stuff like that to understand, what they did, why they did what was bad, what it caused, that kind of thing. Meet with either victims or relatives of victims and stuff like that. It should force them to really be able to deal with what they did, but also how to move on in a positive way and be able to rectify that and reconcile that. And the final thing needs to be that they need to make a space for that people that are leaving jail can actually have an apartment or a condo or somewhere to where, hey, they can go have a real address and then start working and actually get back out there. That's the other problem in America. It's, hey, you're in this place, you're locked up, you can't do anything, you can only make connections with criminals, and then once you're out, fucking, I don't know, rot in a box. We don't give a shit. You're out of here. Fuck
don't
you.
come back.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like nowhere in this process can anyone ever get better without external help. And how many people are willing to help like a convicted felon? Very few. Especially when that record never gets expunged. You're always going to have that. It seems like you never actually complete the punishment because it's always on your record and it's always bringing you down. And if it's a non-serious crime, that shouldn't be on your record. That shouldn't be something that could be pulled back up unless it's like by a court order judge kind of thing. If you do the time, if you do your, commitment and everything, and you do the rehab and you pay the punishment, it shouldn't hold you back.
Right.
You learned. You're better now. Good. Go be better. Go contribute to society. Yay. Good for you. Proud of you. But right now it's only because our system is basically people making profit off it, which is the problem.
Yeah. To quote Fletcher Reed from Liar Liar, stop breaking the law, asshole. If there's nothing for people to look forward to in jail, it gives them less of a reason to be okay with going to jail. Because I have seen videos of people going to court and they're excited to go to jail. I remember one guy walking out of the courtroom with the bailiff. He was yelling out, "It's okay, I've got my people in jail." Or there was another guy, I saw an interview. He was being interviewed by some people. I forget what the hell it was for. They were like, are you concerned about if you go to jail? He says, no, I already know 24 people that are there right now. So when I get to jail, I'll have friends and family there. They're not scared to go. That's an issue. They know they're going to get there. There's people they know. They've got meals provided. They're going to be okay. It's probably an upgrade for a lot of these people.
And the sad part is that shouldn't be the case. But until we make a system where the hierarchy is based on your progress in getting out, rather right now it's a hierarchy of violence and control within the inmates. And unfortunately, until that's broken, nothing's really going to happen. But unfortunately, with the prisons being a for-profit system, they have no incentive with that. They don't care.
No.
So, and there's been many cases of guards working with prisoners in order to, smuggle them things in order to get money and, connections. So,
Yep.
shame.
Yeah, guards get taken advantage of by some inmates, and they
Or sometimes the opposite.
they get into a bad spot sometimes. But definitely making the prison a place of correction and re-entry into society is a priority that needs to be made.
Yeah.
Education and vocational training. Substance abuse treatment is a big thing. The amount of people that go to jail addicted to things and even become addicted while they're in, it's huge.
And it's never addressed.
Mental health services. That's another massive thing. Like you said, job placement post-release. Too many times it's, okay, here's the door, here's $40 and a bus ticket, see ya. Like here in my town, we have a big jail for the county, and we take people from all over the state. When they're done with their term, they just get walked out the front. And then there's a huge homeless population here now because a lot of it is them. It's like, why not bust them back?
Well,
or bust them to a different area.
But we should be making small communities, like gated communities, where the idea is if you want to re-enter society. And this, by the way, I really think also should be for veterans as well in a separate community, as well as different people, whether they're coming out of a drug rehab program or from jail or anything else, to where there should be small, inexpensive communities that are also partnered with places that need jobs, that need services, that need things, to where, hey, when you get out of jail, you can find a job. You can have somewhere to live that's quiet, that's secure, that has security on staff. That way you can re-enter society without struggling. And that goes for anything, really. I hate to say it, but the fact that we don't have separate communities for people in different stages in life, I think it's kind of an issue. Because we expect everybody just to integrate everything all the time. And unfortunately, that's just not how people work sometimes. I hate to say it, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the long-term benefits of reducing the number of repeat offenders, I mean, that goes a long way when you have especially like a smaller community.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't have little Jimmy who just keeps going to jail for a week or two and then coming back out to go bust up a shop and go back in.
Exactly.
You know, that's a drain on that's on law enforcement resources, and that's a drain on the prison resources. But that's going to bring us to our last topic, and this one I know you said you had some thoughts on. Allowing death row inmates a chance to earn their freedom through combat.
Oh, God.
I had to put this one on there simply because it's something that has been talked about and joked about literally for as long as I can think of in movies and TV shows. There have been, like The Running Man was, I think, the first one that I can physically remember where this was a thing. The Hunger Games is essentially that. Gamer, Death Race,
Gladiator,
all kinds of
there's
stuff.
a million,
Yeah. So here's a revenue generating entertainment aspect where the revenue could be put to use to do all kinds of things. Pay for the prisons, pay for prison projects, pay for police programs, other crime or criminal related expenses, social support programs that are lacking in funds. You've got people paying to watch these guys beat the shit out of themselves for 2 hours every other month or whatever. Those are going to generate some money.
Oh, yeah.
So you're going to have some cash coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And then anyone that wins would possibly have a greater understanding of what they actually had to do to get out of prison with their life. They may very well likely be less likely to reoffend. Now, they should still be monitored.
Yeah.
Because you just never know. But having gone through, say, 100 people and making it out alive. I mean, you and I have played Battle Royale games. It's the same concept. If you make it through 100 people and you're the last one left, that's a lot of shit you had to get through to make it out at the end.
But the question becomes, do we want those kind of people loose on society? Because then here's the other problem. You're now letting loose somebody that just fucking killed 100 people mercilessly, and they're really good at it, and you want to let them loose? See, here's what you need to figure out. You don't let them loose here. You let them loose.
Just take them to Australia. They're fine.
You let them loose somewhere where we don't care where they go.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing.
North Korea.
Now you're picking up. Let them paratroop in North Korea and tell them, all right, now you have round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
West Taiwan.
Put it this way. If you can get Kim Jong-un, we will give you your citizenship back. At that point, you could.
Yes.
You have free reign. I'll give you a mansion in LA. How about that? And you know what? If that works itself out, I think we could sacrifice one batshit crazy dude that won a battle royale for destroying North Korea. I feel like that's a fair trade. I feel like we're okay with that.
I agree.
But
yeah,
maybe the idea should be, hey, use that to raise revenue, and they win, but yet somehow you just never hear from them again.
Yeah, they get carted off and just,
See, now you pick up what I'm getting at. It's that needs to be the inside joke is you win, but you don't.
Yeah. The added side benefit that I wanted to mention, if these contests are held, every time we have one, we're getting rid of some of the most vile people to ever walk the face of the earth.
Yeah.
So, self-correcting
See,
problem.
I feel like maybe you're going a little too extreme, but you're missing something we could be doing.
What's that?
I have a different approach. Why don't
Letting people pay for the right to like the hunters?
I didn't consider that. I like it, but let's revisit it. Give me a second. Why not instead say, hey, we're going to institute a different kind of Olympics to where these people can take any drug they want. Companies can pay to advertise creating people into super soldiers or superhumans. And let's see what happens. Hey, if they somehow are able to create the next Superman or Batman, awesome, whatever. But my thought would be, imagine the idea is you have the Olympics where these people take these drugs or whatever they got. That's a performance enhancing drug. It doesn't matter if they make it because they're already the worst. And they already have life, double life, triple life sentences, whatever, 10 life sentences. And they choose. Mind you, these are people that they have to opt in. I'm putting that out there. But imagine if you're like, I really fucked up, but they're saying I got a chance at becoming invincible. You might take that chance. You might say, let's see what happens. Or I got the chance to
basically like that compound from The Boys.
Compound V. That's what I'm saying.
Temporary superpowers.
Yeah, Temp V. Yeah. this is what I'm getting at.
Nice.
Why not let the pharmaceutical industry kill two birds with one stone? Because instead of testing on people that didn't consent to the testing, little
Tuskegee.
Yeah. COVID. Never mind. We'll stop there. Or
right.
Option 2 is they can test on these people, but they can also see what kind of effects maybe certain other drugs might have. And that way they'd be able to have a large enough sample size that they can actually get some really great testing done and some data and some information. Might be able to help out a ton of people. So it could do a lot of good. But now that I'm thinking about your idea, if what you're telling me is I'm allowed to carry a .308 rifle with all the ammo I can carry, and you let me loose on a 500-acre reservation, and you tell me, hey, there's 20 predators out here, you get to hunt them. I'd be willing to pay a decent sum of money. Maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
So there was a movie back in, oh God, where is, I have the list here. 2020 called The Hunt, where that was one of the premises.
You know, again, I'm not saying it's morally right. I'm not saying that.
Right.
But if you got someone that, you know, does inappropriate things with the young ones, and the option is either to have them on a firing squad or to have that generate some money, some revenue, and a TV show. I mean, fuck, if people watch Naked and Afraid, they'd watch this shit. I'm just saying. Like, you know, come on.
100%.
Come on. Like, you know. If the fucking housewives of whatever end up getting millions of views, there's no reason why this wouldn't. Shit.
Right.
No, just saying.
Right. Because, I mean, that would at least be something entertaining. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, you know. Well, you know what, though? I wonder if this would have the... It would have both good and a bad thing, because, like, don't get me wrong, I would worry about people becoming more violent, seeing that stuff happen, but at the same point, our media is already really bad anyway, in terms of what you can see. So, like, I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. The internet exists.
You know, I would just hate to see it glorified. I feel like that's my thing. I wouldn't want that to be, like, accessible to kids and stuff like that, but...
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. Some kind of a strict, you have to put in your ID to view it.
You know what you have to do? Here's the easy way to do it. When you do your taxes, you get a certain PIN code. The only people that file taxes get to watch it.
We've talked about this.
I still think that's the best system ever. Maybe I'm crazy, but
yeah,
that would solve a lot of issues. Yeah, when you file your taxes, you get your PIN code, and that way you are allowed to watch these kind of things.
Well, you know, we have the technology today. I mean, right there's your PIN code.
Yeah.
Your fingerprint. So
that'd be great.
But yeah. So I don't know that we solved anything here tonight, but I think a lot of things just weren't being talked about.
I think we solved a few things.
I think we solved that you have some bloodlust.
No.
It's okay. I think we all do.
I'll be honest. I don't think I'd actually have the stomach to do it. I'll be honest.
If it was somebody that hurt like kids, I think I could do it. No problem.
See, I've never been in the situation.
Call me biased because I have kids, but you know,
that would do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I say I would, but I think I know myself well enough. I think I'd have a very hard time. I would need you over my shoulder just to do it.
Do it. So, but yeah, if you're still listening, we encourage you to do your own research, engage with your community when possible and when appropriate. Look for initiatives that are aimed at positive reform, and try to support those. Ballot initiatives, local events. At the end of the day, the police are people just trying to do a job. It's a job that needs done. It is not the most glorious thing out there, but it is something that the public has deemed necessary. So try not to be somebody who's on the receiving end of their job, and your life will be easier. Any other little side notes?
No, I think we're good. I think covered everything I wanted to say.
Okay. Well, then we'll wrap it up. Thank you as always for hanging out with us. We've got some more great episodes coming in. I know we've kind of been a little sporadic with the episodes this month, but life has been lifing. I think we're finally coming into some semblance of balance, so we should be back to our regular schedule. So look forward to weekly drops again. As always, you can hit up the socials. We try to keep those pretty updated. And we hope you'll join us again next week. Gibbs?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Don't mind me. I had a guy on a super loud bike that kept like blasting by my house. I'm sorry.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you all for watching and listening. We really appreciate it. Please join us on the socials. Definitely on Discord. You know, hit us up and all that. We appreciate you all being here. Seriously.
Yep. The Discord link will always be in the descriptions for the episode, so you can find it there. But again, thank you all for listening. We love you. We love everything about you.
Welcome to Costco. We love you.
Absolutely. And we hope to see you all next time.
Bye.